Good morning, good afternoon, good evening, everybody. Welcome to this episode of the Note Closer Show. As always, Scott Carson, excited to be here with you today. And on this episode, this is a second part to one we did just recently. Recently, USA Today showed, or actually it was a different website, had the top 50 markets that were facing in trouble. The top 50 markets that were showing the most amount of stress, distressed, or as they say, the top 50 markets that are starting to get ugly. And we did the first half of that list, 50 through 26, a few days ago. And so this is the top, I guess you could say this would be technically the top 25 markets that are starting to get ugly. And so it was a great article. It shared basically, how many default dates, number of foreclosures, market drops and pricing, things like that. So I really think this is a great opportunity. And you may be thinking, why the heck, Scott, would investing in a market that's facing stress makes sense? Well, more defaulted notes, bigger discounts, especially when there's more inventory there, opportunities. Because especially if you're able to buy stuff at significant discounts and either modify the loan, foreclose, take the property back, or do one of the 10 different exit strategies that we educate and teach on, it can often be a very profitable market. And we've been investing in quite a few of these markets for a while. There was quite a few in the lower half of the top 50 that we've owned assets in, made a lot of money in, done well in. And there's quite a few of these markets that we've been investing in for the last few years. So really think you want to grab a pen and paper and take some notes on these markets and identify them as maybe tweak what you're looking for as far as assets, or tweak where you're looking for assets anyway. So I actually took the time. Actually, I should give a big shout out to Shannon in my office. She took the time. I had her basically put this PowerPoint together like I did for the bottom half, the top for the 50, and this is the top half of the top 50 markets that are starting to get ugly out there. So I think you'll enjoy this. And when we dive into this, get ready. So as I said before, this is the top 50 defaulted markets, market number 25 through number 1. And number 25 is another market in Ohio, this one specifically Dayton. This is actually so far the lowest priced market that we've seen. Median list price in Dayton, Ohio is $67,000. 2-year price change is 16.5% change, right? The percentage of underwater mortgages is 27.6%. So 1 every 4 homes is underwater still, okay? There's a foreclosure for 1 in every 1,820 homes. The big increase in home prices over the past 2 years might signal to some that the real estate market in Southwest Ohio City is doing just fine. However, Dayton has the second highest percentage of underwater mortgages among the cities in this list, and the foreclosure rate is higher here than the national rate. So while the values have increased on the values and the stuff, think about that, you still have a lot of opportunity there in Dayton with defaulted mortgages. 1 in 4 are in default or underwater, which I consider in default for the most part. So number 25 is Dayton, Ohio. Number 24 is an area that we have bought a lot of assets in. This is Lehigh Acres, Florida. If you don't know where Lehigh Acres is, it's near Fort Myers, east of Coral Gables, a little inland and stuff compared to Cape Coral and Fort Myers. But it's we've made a lot of money in Lehigh Acres. Median list price is $180,000, so it's down quite a bit from about $60,000 from those a little bit closer to the water. 2-year price change is only 6.5%, 6.9%. So just under 7% of the homes are underwater. There's a foreclosure 1 in just every 1,200 roughly homes. And this is what the article says. Although the percentage of underwater mortgages in Lehigh Acres is lower than the percentage nationwide, the foreclosure rate is higher here than the U.S. average. Okay. In addition, the city. Click down a button. The city in the Fort Myers metro area on Florida's Gulf Coast has seen a slowdown in home prices over the past year. 20% of homes listed for sale here have had price cuts. 1 out of 5 have dropped the price. Now, we still are looking in this area for stuff because we're still finding some stuff that's underwater. But our good realtors there have believed that the market is topped out already and starting to come down. So many of the investors I know in that neck of the woods that have taken the properties back or have rental properties or REOs that converted have been selling everything to take advantage of that market and then holding on that cash to when the market does hit south again. They have the cash to be in there and buy up and ride their way back up again. So Lehigh Acres, Florida. Rockford, Illinois, number 23. Median list price is right at 100. The Rockford Peaches. Maybe you've heard of this from Oh my gosh, it's the baseball movie with women. A League of Their Own was on last night. 2-year price change, 10.5%. Percentage of underwater mortgages, 21%. 1 out of every 5 mortgages is underwater. And there's a foreclosure for 1 in every 890 homes. Rockford's real estate market could turn ugly because a significant percentage of homeowners here have negative equity. More than 20% of mortgages are underwater in this northern Illinois city, compared with about 8% nationally. Plus, the foreclosure rate, Rockford is one of the highest among cities on this list. Okay, true point. Thing about Illinois, this is not in Cook County, which is great, but you're still going to have roughly a 9 to 12 month foreclosure time frame in Illinois. So that's another thing to keep in mind. Although foreclosure rates are already higher, it could get a little bit higher pretty fast. Okay, Mobile, Alabama. Median list price $160,000. 2-year price change 6.3%. 16% of the homes are underwater because currently there's a foreclosure 1 in every 2,149 homes. Home prices are still rising in the port city on the Gulf Coast, but not as fast as prices are increasing across the U.S. However, the bigger problem for Mobile's real estate market is homeowners with negative equity. Okay, they still have not recovered yet from 10 years ago. Percentage of underwater mortgages here is twice the national average. So that's something to think about. You would think that with 10 years since the big downturn and markets rebounding, they would have recovered, but they still have not recovered yet. That's the thing to keep in mind. It's recovered in other areas. And on the previous list, we had Tuscaloosa. With the University of Alabama, which is booming and stuff like that, still in the top 50. Okay. Here's the one that's very close to number 24, Cape Coral, Florida. Median list price is $262,000. 2-year price change 4.2. Only 5.5% of the homes in Cape Coral underwater. There's a foreclosure for basically 1 in every 1,200 homes. City near Fort Myers has seen rapid growth, but its current housing market experiencing a slowdown. Home prices increased just 0.1% on average over the past year. Nearly 22% of homes listed for sale have price cuts, and houses in Cape Coral stay on the market an average of 103 days compared with a national average of 66 days. And I love the picture that Shan pulled of this one, because this is actually down at Tarpon Springs, and right to the left of the condominium is actually where we have done a lot of our masterminds down in this neck of the woods. It's a gorgeous place. I love Cape Coral, but I would not be buying there right now because I think it's going to take a dive. But some opportunity I think is going to be coming very soon there, like in that Gulf Coast, because that area, Fort Myers, Cape Coral, Lehigh Acres, has had a lot of growth, but one of the fastest growing areas in the country as people are moving south and living on the coast there. Fort Pierce, Florida, on the opposite side, median list price is just under $200,000. 2-year price change 0.5%. Underwater mortgages at 9.7%, and there's a foreclosure for 1 in every 1,585 homes. Home prices climbed more than 9% nationwide over the past years. They barely budged in this small city on Florida's Atlantic coast. Nearly 10% of the mortgages are underwater in Fort Pierce, compared with about 8% nationwide, and the foreclosure rate is higher than the rate across the U.S. And Fort Pierce, there's some great areas there, but there's also some rough areas in Fort Pierce. So you got to be careful. I'd be willing to bet a lot of the underwater mortgages are in some of the rougher areas there, but there's still some great opportunities. And it's on the Atlantic coast. So like water, there's some opportunities there, just like in every city is going to have its good and its bad spots. Okay. Suffolk, Virginia. Moving north up the Atlantic coast. List price is $283,000. 0% change in the past 2 years. 14.8% underwater mortgages. And there's a foreclosure for 1 in every 1,846 homes. Now, home prices haven't risen any on average for the past 2 years in Suffolk. And homes for sale stay on the market an average of 76 days, compared with a national average of 66 days. So that's not so bad. The other problems the real estate market is facing in the city, which is part of the Virginia Beach metro area, are the relatively high percentage of underwater mortgages and the high foreclosure rate. So that's the thing. Things are kind of moving like the national average, 76 days there, but you still have underwater mortgages and higher foreclosure rates. So you're seeing an increase actually in short sales in Suffolk, Virginia there. And obviously, if you don't know what Suffolk is, there's a big base there. I believe the Navy's got a big shipyard there in Suffolk. And it's not too far from Virginia Beach as well there too for you. So something to keep in mind. Number 18, Laurel, Maryland. Okay. Meaning the list price $350,000. 2-year price change down 2.8%. Percentages underwater mortgages is 12.6, almost double the national average. There's a foreclosure for 1 in every 1,457 homes. Home prices have been falling in the city that's located between Baltimore and Washington, D.C. On top of that, nearly 30% of mortgages are underwater in Laurel, compared with about 8% nationwide. And the foreclosure rate is higher than the U.S. average. So that's the thing. You've got that between Baltimore and Washington. This is where Laurel is. If you've never been there, I've actually been there a couple times. It's a great area, but unfortunately, you've got some issues there. Changes have been down. I don't say it would be when you have something between Baltimore and DC, you're going to have some influx as people come and go with the government or as with elections. But you got to keep in mind there, if you're looking to move that neck of the woods, you might want to check out Laurel. And if you're buying something, hold on to it for a while. Joliet, Illinois, another Illinois city. This meeting in Joliet, the list price is $170,000. 2 years price change is about 10%. But they've got 15.5% of the homes are underwater. And there's a foreclosure for 1 in every 812 homes. Okay. Although home prices in Joliet increased 9.6% over the past 2 years, prices haven't risen any on average over the past year. So that 9.6 is from 2 years ago. What's more troubling, though, are the higher number of foreclosures and underwater mortgages in the city 30 miles southwest of Chicago. Joliet has the 4th highest foreclosure rate among cities on this list, and the percentage of underwater mortgages here is almost double the percentage nationwide. Okay. That takes us to number 16, Valdosta, Georgia. I don't know what to say, Gorga, Georgia. Median list price $155,000, 0% price change. Okay, percentage of underwater homes 22.7%. But there's a foreclosures for 1 in every 3,300 homes. Now, the foreclosure rate in the city near the Georgia-Florida border is lower than the U.S. average. However, Valdosta has one of the highest percentages of underwater mortgages among cities on this list. Home prices here have also fallen more than 6% over the past year. So think about that. Prices falling, underwater mortgages increasing. If you're looking for something on the Florida-Georgia borderline, this might be the place for you, because a lot of people were buying in Georgia because of the fast foreclosure, especially debt a few years back. They moved over and were buying in Florida because there was better deals because of the longer foreclosure time frames. So that's the thing. Now, if you're buying debt in Georgia, one of the things you got to keep in mind is they want you to be a licensed mortgage broker in that state to be able to buy, or they'll exclude that if you're using your self-directed IRA to fund the purchase. Okay. That takes us to the top 15. That takes us back up to Illinois. Decatur, median list price is just at $100,000. 2-year price change is 8.5%. They've got a 20.4% rate of homes that are underwater. And there's a foreclosure 1 in every basically 5,800 homes. Okay. Decatur has the lowest foreclosure rate among the cities on this list. Okay. But the housing market in the central Illinois city may turn ugly due to its high percentage of underwater mortgages. Decatur also has a higher percentage of homes with price cuts than half of the cities on the list, and homes for sale spend more days on the market here than the majority of cities. So that's the thing. It may stay on the list here, but I'm willing to bet you see a lot of short sales in Decatur because of the longer foreclosure time frame in Illinois. And, that's the thing to keep in mind there. You've got underwater, and not much stuff going on there. So keep that in mind. Central Illinois there, Decatur, Illinois, 15. That takes us to number 14, Elgin, Illinois, also in Illinois. Different price change. Median list price $240 compared to the previous one. 2-year price change 7.8%. Percentage of underwater mortgages 11.9. There's a foreclosure for 1 in every 1,223 homes. Now, this is if you don't know where Elgin is, a Chicago suburb, is twice the national rate when it comes to foreclosures. Plus, the home price growth in Elgin has slowed over the past year. Nearly 20% of the homes listed for sale have had price cuts. Okay. I would buy in Elgin when I would not buy in Chicago, because the fact is I don't want to buy in Cook County. So I believe Elgin is in Lake County or just outside of Cook County. Okay. 13, Riverview, Florida. All right, another Florida area. Median list price in Riverview is $253,000. 2-year price change is 2.2%. Only 7.2% of the homes underwater, but there is a foreclosure for 1 in basically every 800 homes. This is in the Tampa area. If you didn't know where Riverview is. Like other markets near Tampa, it has a housing market that could turn ugly. It has the 2nd highest foreclosure rate on the list. Home price growth has slowed over the past year. Nearly 25% of homes listed for sale had price cuts compared with 17.5% nationwide. Think about that. Tampa was one of the 2 major markets, Tampa and Miami, that really were the 2 first to recover after the downturn. They really boomed. A lot of investors came in there, but it's the big sign. Price cuts means that the market's dropping, the values are dropping, and you've had people that are still buying there like crazy. I think they're overpaying for it. I think they need to be cash out and sit looking for cash and wait for the market to either drop down and buy stuff or default, or wait for it to have to. That takes us back across the border to the big market in Georgia, Atlanta, number 12. You're going to probably recognize all these names going forward. Atlanta, number 12, mean list price $340 grand, 2-year price change 1.6%. 8.8% of the homes are underwater. There's a foreclosure for just 1 in every 1,950 homes. Home prices in Atlanta have dropped 3% of the past year in Georgia's capital and the largest city. Atlanta is also seeing a home stay in the market longer than the U.S. average. Plus, the foreclosure rate is higher than the rate nationwide. So, Georgia, like I said, faster foreclosure market. It's a non-judicial state, but you've got some strict laws there as far as licensing required by the attorney general there. Like I said, you can get away with it partnering up with either mortgage broker who's doing stuff there or using your IRA to fund the deal. Okay. Number 11, Lawton, Oklahoma. Mean list price $100 grand. 2-year price change is 5%. Percentage of underwater mortgages 25.7%. There's a foreclosure 1 in every 1,700 homes. Lawton has the 4th highest percentage of underwater mortgages among cities on this list. The foreclosure rate also is higher in the southwestern Oklahoma City than it is nationwide. The home stay in the market an average of 117 days, which is double, pretty much double than the U.S. national average of 66 days. So something to keep in mind there in Lawton. Okay, and that's not too far from Oklahoma City. Okay. 10, Hampton VA. Median list price $182,000. 2 years price change just under 5%. 19.9% of the homes are underwater, and there's a foreclosure 1 every 2,150 homes. Hampton was is one of the fastest growing cities in the Hampton Roads region on the Chesapeake Bay. However, its housing market has been slowing. Home prices have fallen nearly 3% on average over the past year, and the percentage of underwater mortgages here is double the percentage nationwide. But if you're looking for something that's on the water, this might be an affordable area. Virginia is a relatively fast foreclosure state too, so something to keep in mind there. There's some opportunity there for you. That brings us into number 9, Aurora, Illinois. I don't know, when I hear of Aurora, I think of Wayne's World. Welcome to Aurora Public Access. Okay, medium list price instead of slice is $220 grand. 2-year price change is 4.7%. Percentage of underwater mortgages is 11.8%. There's a foreclosure 1 in every 1,500 homes. This Chicago suburb is actually the 2nd largest city in Illinois, if you didn't know that. Its current housing market is showing signs of trouble. It has the 4th highest percentage of homes with price cuts at 23.7%. And the foreclosure rate and percentage of underwater mortgages are higher than the U.S. average. So, hey, if you're living in Illinois, you may want to look at Aurora there as an opportunity to pick up some stuff if you don't mind the foreclosure process. Okay. Moving on to Bridgeport, Connecticut. Mean list price is $190,000. 2-year price change is 11.1%. The percentages of underwater mortgages is 26.9%. There's a foreclosure 1 in every 1,453 homes. This port city, 60 miles from New York, has the 2nd highest percentage of underwater mortgage on this list. Foreclosure rate is higher than the national rate, and houses stay in the market an average of 102 days compared with the U.S. average of 66 days. Okay. Bridgeport, Connecticut. Number 7, Norfolk VA. Back to Virginia. All right. Main list price $220. 2-year price change 3.3. 20.6% of the homes are underwater. There's a foreclosure for 1 in every basically 2,100 homes. This is where the naval base is. Suffolk is, and it's Norfolk is where the naval base is. My apology. The world's largest naval base, Norfolk, is located in southeastern Virginia on the Chesapeake Bay. Home prices have been flat this past year, and houses are staying on the market here slightly longer than the national average. The bigger problem in Norfolk, though, is the highest percentage of underwater mortgages, which is more than double the percentage nationwide. Okay, so anytime you run into a naval, you have a base, you're going to have an influx in and influx out. People buying homes and people leaving, getting not deported, deported. That's kind of funny. Moving out for long-term stuff. You know, as far as on orders is what I meant to say. So you run into that. We see that here in Central Texas, especially with Fort Hood, north of Austin. Here we see that where the market's changed a little bit there. But that's an opportunity here for those maybe to come in and maybe do some good with some of the military out there. Okay. 6, one of my favorite places, Miami Beach. Is kind of surprised. Median list price is just right at $500,000. 2-year price change down 5%. Percentage of underwater mortgages 14.5%. There's a foreclosure 1 in every 20, basically 400 homes. While home prices have been rising on average across the U.S. over the past years, they've fallen 5% in this resort city across the Biscayne Bridge from Miami. Plus houses for sale spend more days in the market here, 225 than any other city on the list. 8 months in Miami Beach. Now, Miami Beach, years ago, 10 years ago, I was picking up stuff, condos and things in Miami Beach, very, very cheap, 5-10% of the unpaid balance. We're already starting to see some of those higher-end condos. $1 million condos are what's really killing Miami Beach, because those things are sitting around, but a lot of growth, a lot of redevelopment in that neck of the woods. Whether it's Miami Beach, you're going up a little bit to Sunny Isles Beach too, along Highway 1. Hey, if you like Miami, there's some opportunity there with defaults and stuff like that. Just got to expect to probably have to hold it for a while, because Florida still has a pretty decent 6 to 9 month foreclosure time frames, and there's a lot of condos, so that can work in your favor if you're buying the note and foreclosing and avoiding a lot of the HOA fees or the condo association fees, because they have a cool safe harbor law. All right. Number 5 is Baltimore, Maryland. Now, I didn't know Baltimore would be so high when I thought about this list. I thought it'd be in the top 50, but not number 5. Mean list price is $170,000. 2 years price change 17%. 26.5% of underwater mortgages there, and then the foreclosures is 1 in every basically 1,400 homes. Now, this is Maryland's largest city, has had the biggest percentage increase in median home list prices over the past 2 years of any city on the list. However, Baltimore saw a 0.6% drop in home prices over the past year. It now has a higher percentage of homes with price cuts than most cities, and Baltimore has the 3rd highest percentage of underwater mortgages in this study. So Baltimore, some great areas and some rough areas. Have been areas that 10 years ago were just trash. They got regentrified, really built up, really nice. And you still have, heck, there was a list floating around about a year or two ago about a ton of homes and with a tax foreclosure, tax sale that are starting to be regentrified, rebuilt up and stuff like that. So it's definitely some opportunity in Baltimore. Just got to know where to look, but you got to make sure you buy it right as well. Partially why I like buying the debt. Okay. 4, Columbus, Georgia. This is actually Stephanie's hometown. Mean list price is $115,000. 2-year price change is down 10%, 10.2%. 22.2% of the homes are underwater as far as their mortgages. There's a foreclosure 1 in every basically 1,200 homes. Home prices in Columbus have dropped more than in all but 2 cities on this list. The percentage of underwater mortgages in the city on the Georgia-Alabama border is among the highest rates in the study. And the foreclosure rate here is double than the rate nationwide. So Columbus, like I said, it's on that Georgia-Alabama borderline. It's not too far from Auburn. You still need to have a license to buy in Georgia there, but there's some opportunity there with the faster foreclosure timeframes. Now, Columbus, Steph's not a big fan of her hometown, but it's a decent-sized area, and you got some value there, meaningless home price there. Also, not too far from Fort Benning, the military base there as well. Okay. Number 2 is Lakewood, New Jersey. Where's number 3? I think we're missing one there, aren't we? Well, I'll have to go back and find it. Anyway, Lakewood, New Jersey. Mean list price is $252,000. 2-year price range is down 12.3%. Percentage underwater mortgages is 9.4%. All right, foreclosures 1 in every 1,187 homes. This city, about 70 miles south of New York City, has seen home prices tumble more than 12% over the past 2 years. Second biggest drop among cities in Go Banking Rates ranking. It's the company that put this together. Average number of days on a home stay in the market here, 135. That's twice the national average, and the foreclosure rate is twice as high as the rate nationwide. And that brings us to the number 1. Number 1 market getting ugly out there is Peoria, Illinois. Mean list home price is $125,000. 2-year price change is down almost 16%. Percentages underwater mortgages, 21%, and there's a foreclosure for 1 in every 932 homes. Now, Peoria comes in number 1 spot on this list. They're turning ugly the market's turning ugly for several reasons. The city in central Illinois has seen the biggest drop in home prices the past 2 years of any city on this list. The average number of days houses are on the market and the percentage of homes for sale with price cuts are higher than the national average. And the percentage of underwater mortgages here is more than double the percentage nationwide, almost triple. And the foreclosure rate is among the highest on this list, one of the top 5 or 6 foreclosure lists there in Peoria. So you think about the states. What do you have states? You got Florida, you got Georgia, Connecticut, Virginia, Illinois, and Maryland. Now, if you look at the top 50 markets, also those are the similar states that have the same issues. Now, what does that mean? Well, you probably need to make those 5 or 6 states your top focus as far as opportunities for the next couple of years. That's where the market's at. Now, if you're in an area that's got stuff, Ohio, Michigan, great. But those two states, if you think about it, Ohio, Michigan didn't make the top 50 markets. Now, it's not saying there's not defaults there, just not top 50. A lot of people have been buying there. A lot of markets are changing. So if you're really looking at, want to see a crystal ball of moving forward and markets you should look at and what you're going to possibly see as a note investor, I think we've hit it with this episode and the previous episode with the bottom half of the top 50. So take heed, guys. Go out, make some phone calls, check out lenders, check out banks that are lending in those areas. It's an easy thing you can pull on Lane Guide or Distress Pro with Brett Palumbo software, or jumping on the county clerk website and checking to see who's filed assignments of mortgages, assignments as a mortgage has been sold and originated, and look at that aspect of it. You would also, might do well to also reach out to a couple realtors in those markets. If one of those markets meet your fancy, and start asking them to pull short sale listings for you and seeing what banks are handling the short sales aspect of it, who are the bank on the hook for that. Might be an opportunity to be able to bag some great deals at a discount with ready-made buyers in place and still be able to get stuff at a pretty substantial discount with an end buyer in mind. So just keep in mind the days on market is a huge thing when it comes to areas. Obviously, it's going to change compared to on a street by street or sometimes zip code by zip code level. But keep that in mind and use the numbers. Use the things we discussed in this as a negotiating tool. If a seller is telling me some stuff, I'm like, hey, days on market a lot longer than the rest of the country. Foreclosures increased. They're 2 times higher here based on this study. Those are the little things that you can use to negotiate in buying either one-offs or probably more a little mini bulk aspect of, or even bulk buying for specific sources. So I wish you happy hunting. Hopefully this episode has been helpful for you. Go out, make something happen, everybody. And we'll hopefully see you all at the top, everybody.